Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sami Parvez show. Today, I'm joined by Reid Hill from Regina, Saskatchewan. He is running as a city councillor for Ward 9 in Regina. We will be discussing about his election campaign in this municipal election. Thank you so much, Reid, for joining me on the Sami Parvez show. It's a good pleasure to have you from Regina, Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Sami. It's great to be here.
Thank you. And could you please talk about your background and what interested you to run in this city council election?
Okay, so I live in Western Northwest Regina. I was born and raised here. This is my second council run. I ran in 2020 in Ward 8, came in seconds, but it was a great experience. I learned a lot about how to, be interactive with city council and city administration and kind of come to an understanding how things work. And I mean, with the redrawing of the map of the city and how things are going, and a lot of pressure from friends and other politicians and family members to run in Ward 9, I
Mhm.
decided to do it. I don't do it for those reasons. I believe in a service over self-interest. I mean, it's about serving the public, and city council is kind of the best direct democracy because there's not big, huge amount of people supporting you on that level. You have if you get elected, it's basically you, and then you have to pass things on to city administration. You might have a helper every once in a while, but it's your phone number, it's your contact information, and you directly dealing with, civic issues and sometimes having to make those larger decisions. But some of those decisions I want to give up to the people to give a clear answer, because if it's a snap decision, I know the residents are not going to be happy, especially with the way things have gone. So it's trying to get back a little bit to basics and get back to, helping people and focusing on people again. That's kind of what city council has always been about. It it affects our lives the most, yet it has the least amount of people actually voting in it. It's kind of sad when you get a maximum of 20 to 22% when, we have the provincial vote and 60% come out in some instances, or at least the high 50s. So there's not a lot of people voting, and they're the ones determining. And I go, we need a little bit more people to come out and vote. We need a little bit more of that community angle to really convince people to go out and vote. But when you're a small team like mine, it's difficult, and a lot of residents get a little burnt out of voting because, this year we could still have a federal election, but we have a provincial election, and we're distracted by what's going on in the states.
Mhm.
And, it being my home, this area of the city, it's always been of interest to me. I still have friends, family members. Like my babysitter still lives in the community when I was growing up. So it's kind of, coming home and doing what I can for the people and friends and family that live there. So
Mhm.
that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now you are running, you said Ward 8, right?
No, nine,
Ward
nine.
9.
I
Yeah.
ran in
So,
Ward 8 last time. Yep.
Okay, and is the incumbent is still running in Ward 9?
We don't know yet.
Mm.
So as of today, he has 10 days. So the November 9th, or sorry, October 9th is the last day at 4:30 to get your paperwork in.
Mhm.
So every incumbent, whether they're deciding to run or not, has till 4:30 on the 9th to announce if they're running or not and get the paperwork in and pay the $100.
Mhm.
So that's 25 signatures and $100, and a commissioner of oaths sworn statement, and away you go.
Mhm.
So we don't know. There's three of us running currently,
Mhm.
but we don't know about him, and it's kind of questions in the air about whether or not he's going to run.
Mhm.
And I
Okay,
mean,
yeah,
yep,
please.
go ahead.
Yeah, I said as you brought up, like there is a low turnout, especially in city council elections, like, and right now there is much going on with
Mhm.
respect to in Ottawa, in Regina, and particularly in in also in the city elections are ongoing in across like as Saskatchewan.
Yep.
So what do you think should be done to encourage the voters to get out and vote?
I mean, what a lot of voters talk about when it comes to like not voting in city council, it's a lot of them get a little they get a little burnt out by the province because right now, once that provincial election drops, and it could drop as soon as tomorrow, which tomorrow's a federal holiday, so I really doubt it. It's probably going to drop like Tuesday or Thursday next week,
Yeah,
and they are just going to get hit hard with lawn signs and constant phone calls from politicians in that provincial election, hitting the entire province while the entire province is also going through civic election. So
mhm,
us city council, us people running for city council and I guess school board, because both are running at the same
yeah,
time. Well,
mhm,
two school boards and city and the province are all running at the same time.
yeah,
So we're for us, we don't have a lot of phone banks. Some candidates might, some candidates don't, but then we're competing with that. We're
mhm,
competing with machines that have millions of dollars, and we're allowed to spend no more than little over $12,000 for
yeah,
each of us can't count counselors, um, city
yeah,
people running for school board, they don't have a limit. So if they want to spend 100 grand of their own money, they can go and do that.
yeah,
And the mayors themselves in the city of Regina, anyways, spend around $72,000. So comparable to the millions being spent on advertising and billing on the provincial level, we have to compete with that. And voters get a little burned out about that. And I get it on the door every day where I didn't even know this was going on, or, yeah, but I'm still focusing on the provincial election. After the provincial election, I'll make up my mind. So an entire month is going to go by
mhm,
before people even think and talk about the provincial or the municipal election. And the municipal election technically starts in late June. So we're given a longer writ period for that with less money, less influence on the voters. So, I might have spent $5,000 or so last time, and I might spend the same this time because a lot of it has to come down to the candidate. We're not connected to political parties. We might be endorsed by unions or businesses or individuals, but we're not connected to that party that's just going to bombard voters. So if we really want voter turnout to go up, there's a couple answers. You could move the election, but we have to ask permission to do that. And if the province doesn't give us permission, we can't. So that's kind of that. And sometimes they like that. So the cities kind of have that problem. And well, we can't move the federal United States election. So the only way I'd see our election getting moved is if a federal one drops, then we get pushed. We usually get pushed into December.
mhm,
So that then gives us a little bit of gap, but that happens not very often when we get pushed. So I mean, to get voter turnout up, I mean, maybe the city elections has to do a little bit better job of, and they're doing a little bit more promoting than I've seen them before. But once again, the promoting's coming from property taxes, and people don't like spending extra money on promotional ads. So especially on this level, so they can only do so much. I mean, if they were partnered with the province does a great job at advertising about elections and getting people to think about it, and in a change election like this one might be for mayor, especially again, maybe we could see the voter turnout go up a little higher. But we might be seeing a little bit more voter turnout on the provincial side. So there could be a lot more votes come out, but it's all circumstances outside of my control, right? I can
yeah,
only get my people to go to the polls that are wanting to vote for me. So if that's 1,500 people, well, that's
mhm,
1,500 more people to vote, but that might not change the overall turnout. And if the incumbents don't run, it does give us newbies a chance to maybe get a little bit more turnout, but it won't flex up as high as the province. So I think it's a little advertising and trying to find a little bit more gap. That would be the only answers I have.
mhm,
But once again, the province has to approve it. And if they don't approve it, we get stuck 2 weeks after them. It used to be like 2 days
yeah,
after them, but they gave us kind of like a 2 week window now, which is handy. But
mhm,
it also falls really close to a holiday. Like it falls close to Remembrance Day. And
yeah,
that drives voter turnout down because people might, with Remembrance Day happening on a weekend, you know, people, well, the positive thing is maybe the Monday will be off or the Friday will be off, so maybe a few more people go out and vote because they have a little bit of extra time. So
Mhm.
that those are clear answers. Other answers, I don't really have them. We can't force people to vote. We aren't Australia.
Yeah.
So there is no forcing people to vote with a fine here. So that's just is what it is. Those are the only answers I have because it's
Mm,
just not going to change right
yep.
now.
And you said like you have like in city council like you have just limit of $12,000
Yeah.
for the spending. So do you think the spending should increase?
I don't think so, even though we're such a large, like a city council ward is like two MLAs almost. It's like two of them overlap my ward. And I go, I don't know if we want to increase the spending limits because if you do that, it kind of opens it up more to people wanting to think about maybe putting in a party or you do that. I mean, how spending limits I've seen them is it's kind of by size of city. And our city's still, not under 250,000. I look at Saskatoon, their spending limits sometimes double ours in respect, so they might be able to spend 30, but their city's almost 300,000 people. So it's kind of by size. And I mean, keeping it small means keeps us a little bit more, we have to be working for the people and earning that vote. We can't just pay out of pocket for door knockers all the time. We have to rely on volunteers. Maybe
Mhm.
we can pay for a couple now and then if you have the extra cash, but a lot of it means that the person running has to make that connection. And I kind of like that because a lot of people like to meet who's running, who the politician is, and like I said, if it's such a small voter turnout, people only turn out, I find, if they know who's running. And if it's on a party level, they're going to turn out if that party comes to their door. So, and there's no party politics. So
Yep.
keeping it small does give it some benefits. You don't
Mhm.
have takeovers, which is handy.
Yep. And what are you wearing on the doorstep when you go for door knocking?
Usually, like this golf shirt is what I was wearing today, and shorts today because it was 30 degrees,
Yeah.
and running shoes. Like I'm not one to go into a suit. People are comfortable in their homes, and they
Mm.
want somebody who's gonna look tidy, but also is out, putting in kilometers every day for door knocking. And I mean, if I see someone come into the door in a suit door knocking, I'm gonna look at them go a little weird because they're sweating in a suit. I mean, a suit's when you get elected, or a suit's for the job. This is connecting with people, so you got to put them at ease. Like
Mhm.
I'm selling myself. I'm not selling a product.
Yeah.
So you gotta be in touch with who they are. And when they open the door, and they could be wearing a nightie for all I know. And
Mhm.
that's kind of the thing, right? It's in their home. You want to be kind of close to their level, but still professional
Yeah.
while maintaining, you're doing like 200 doors, 300 doors that day.
Yeah.
You're going to put some miles on them running shoes, and that's what you should be wearing is running shoes. Don't wear dress shoes. You're going to kill your feet. I see it all the time with some candidates that, they put on a nice dress shirt, they got nice pants on and dress shoes, but by the end of the day, they're dying. And I go, why are you wearing this? Wear a nice golf shirt or wear a nice kind of shirt, or if it's a home rider home game or a Pats game, put on some Pats
Mhm.
jerseys and go door knocking. And so while you're doing it, you're supporting your local team. And then, if you want an aside, ask them how the Riders are doing, because that's what I did yesterday, because I
Mhm.
wanted to know who's winning the game. And that kind of gets you a little bit extra conversation too, to show that you're, supporting the local team or just,
Yeah.
seeing what their lives are like.
Mhm. And particularly, what are the issues for Ward 9?
Ward 9 is kind of a mix of where I door knock. So a lot of what residents are talking about is like finishing a sidewalk in a certain area, um, putting in some barrier walls or some more police officers, cleaning up some bins, and then it's like general maintenance. A lot of it's just getting things done in the local community and focusing on some of those issues again. We've had a lot of this city refocusing on what I like to call legacy projects, like bigger bills, but not really
Mhm.
thinking it through and trying to ask for debt or not getting the amount of money they would normally seek for federal grants. So the wards are kind of frustrated with how the city's been spending. I mean, a big one that will come up constantly, no matter where I am, is Real. So that's Regina Exhibition Association Limited. And they are kind of an arm's length institution connected to the city. And they've been asking for millions every year from the city to pay off their debt, to keep them operational and running. I know they went through some hard times, but for the last, I think it was 7 years, they've kind of been going downhill, and they keep increasing fees. They keep increasing prices on food, and they're not getting the people to go to the buildings anymore. And they've run out a lot of people, and they've mismanaged the money. And it's going to be connected to the mayor, the current mayor. She used to run there, and it's not a good look. And the citizens want to know, what are we going to do with Real? How are we going to stop the bleeding? How are we going to stop putting money in there where that money could be going back to the communities and going back to the citizens? And I go, well, many different options have come up on the doorstep. Different options have come up from administration, whether they reset the board again, because they just quietly appointed a new board. So it's reset the board, sell some of it off to private interests, and keep the stuff that we own, and operate properly, and keep some of the community buildings, like the well, we have a soccer facility, and we have new hockey rinks that are connected to Real, that are great for the city, and should be kept probably under city eyes. And then if the rest of the building wants to be sold off to private interest, and they want to build a new stadium or whatever they want to do with their own money, sure. That's just one option. Like, at the end of the day, if Real disappears, the city will be on hook for $16 million of debt, and the citizens know it. But maybe in their mind, $16 million, a one-time shot to, stop the bleeding until something can be done, is an answer. And I mean, they're talking about a lot of the sports people are talking about, and this is Canada wide now, this young guns hockey that's come in, and it's even in Ontario. It's affecting Ontario hockey. So this organization has come in, is affecting rec hockey across the globe, to create a whole new hockey league that still hasn't been recognized by any of Canada's hockey authority or Saskatchewan hockey authority across our country. So, and they're pushing out people that are paying for rec hockey to get better ice time. And I go, why? You're not doing things, you're not helping the community. You're letting a company come in here with money to get people pushed out, and that's affecting my ward, but it's affecting most of the hockey community. And a lot of it too is it comes down to taxes, it comes down to water bills, it comes down to basic needs. And like, as a council person who's running, we can't promise to, freeze it. We can't promise to reduce it. We can't. It's People want value for what they're putting in, and they want somebody to represent them. That's really what they want. They want to know that if another tax increase is coming, which it almost always does, can it be justified? Can it have value? Is it going to give back to our communities? And what are each of the communities, it's about 7 in my ward, going to get? Like, are they going to see more road maintenance? Are they going to see one more snow plow? Are they going to see a little bit more investment into there? Are they going to see businesses attracted to our areas? Are they going to see communities that were promised, 10 years ago built? All those answers, and they haven't had those answers. And a lot of times it's just no. And that's what people are talking about. And I can see the frustration.
Yeah, so where would you stand when there would be a motion for increasing the property tax or the water or maintenance?
Well,
So
I
who are you
mean,
going to vote?
the water bill and stuff, is a lot of it's controlled by administration. So it's really the council. If you use more water, you're using more water, so your bill goes up. I mean, the council really, if it had a united front, could maybe reduce the water's flat rate. That's all we would really be able to talk about. And I mean, I look at other councils that told me about it, and they worked for years to try and get it moved even a millimeter of lowered, and it didn't happen. So when it came to taxes, if it is justified, if I can take the information to my residents, and they accept what it's going towards, and I can show them what the value is, I'd have to vote in favor, because I would leave that vote to them. Because if I say yes, then I'm going to get I could get reamed by one side if I say no without giving them an option to at least voice their opinion, and I'll get reamed by the yes side. So a vote like that, and whenever the city budget comes, the councillor can take the budget to the people. And I'm
Mhm.
more than willing to take it to them to say, look, this is what we're going to be paying for. This is the increase is coming. If you don't want me to vote for the increase, and I know that I'd have to send it back to administration to get the budget changed again, which might cost us a little bit more money because every time you send something back to administration, it actually does cost a little bit of money because they have to hire consultants and people to rework it. And I go, okay, if I can convince the people and show them what the value is, then I would have to vote yes. And I would leave it up to the residents for that. If it's something very important, then the residents are always wanting more information. And they're always told go online, go online. But I'm like, a lot of people just want to hear it from the counselor. Even if it's bad news, they at least want to hear it. And if I say, okay, I'm going to vote yes, here's the reason. I'll vote no, here's the reason.
Mhm.
So, and giving them that option to speak. And that's what a counselor's supposed to do. I
Yeah.
mean, we look at different levels of government. Once you get up to provincial and higher into federal government, yes, we, the Canadian people, don't get a say in the vote, but we elected those officials to hopefully, choose the right decision. And if they're in government, make a budget that works for us. On a
Mhm.
civic level, it's an administration that's making the budget for the various departments, and then they're giving it to us, the council, to make a critical decision. But sometimes the documents, like a couple hundred pages. I don't have time to read. I try to make as much time to read that document, but I also want to give, a clear Coles Notes version to the public before that vote happens. And they
Okay.
want that now.
Mhm. Yeah, and where do you stand with respect to Regina police funding? Like there were some consequences in the past, like there were some group calling for the defund the police. So where do you stand with that?
Like
I
when
know.
I ran in 2020 and to continue to run now, the police set a clear budget. And I'm not going to be for defund police because we need them. Even some of those people that were for defund, they've changed their mind.
Yeah.
It's how we do policing. And if we have active policing that are inclusive in our communities and work in the community, which
Mhm.
will require more officers to start targeting some of the gang violence, to start targeting some of the crime, and some of the speeders in some areas that people want speeding to be dealt with,
Yeah.
we're going to need a little bit more of a robust police force because back then we were short 60 officers just to do basic policing, just basic need policing to respond to calls. Because you would have times where at night you might have 5 officers to respond to critical mass, while
Mhm.
the rest of them are down in the communities that are most affected.
Mhm.
So 5 officers for the rest of, I don't know, hundreds of little communities. You got 5 guys.
Mhm.
It's not gonna doesn't cut it. So the province has just given us a relief to have 30 more officers. So that gets us to, helps alleviate some of the pressure, but we're still going to be short to do the proper things that we need for policing. And we're going to have to, and it's not just policing that's going to help these people. There will have to be programs, especially for homelessness. I mean, we just bought a homeless shelter. Well, we didn't. The province and the feds actually gave us some money for it. So, and it would never make everybody happy wherever we put it. But at the end of the day, having a program, having the shelter, having the police that are active enough to solve some of our issues is the only way we're going to move forward. Like the drug crisis is real here
Yeah.
and it affects a whole bunch of communities and then it spreads out to the suburbs where people get their bikes stolen so that the poor guy who is addicted to drugs, you know, gets his next high.
Mhm.
So we have to think that what's going to solve the problem. And I mean, jail time doesn't solve that problem, but if the police are at least there to identify it a little bit quicker and not say, hey, we'll be there in, I don't know, 3 days to look after it and the after effects. And if it was a bike, because that's pretty much the big thing over leading into 2020 and even into now, where did you do you have a plate on your bike? And this is just a pedal bike. Do you have identification marks on the bike somewhere so that when we do find it, because they usually find a lot of them, can we give it back to you? And a lot of people, they don't. It's their bike. They're going to put it away. Like I had a resident who had just moved into one of my communities. Yeah, the first week my bikes were gone. Well, you're told as soon as you move in, like put them
Yeah,
in a shed, lock them in your garage, whatever you got to do so they're not grabbable. And
yeah.
he didn't know,
And
and that's fair.
mhm. Yeah, and where would you stand when there would be a vote for increasing the salary of the council?
So, council hasn't, thing is, council is still a part-time job, and there's always been a discussion about do we make it full-time?
Mhm.
Do we have that discussion? And I mean, if we make a full-time council, is there ways to, you know, move around some of the middle managers that we wouldn't need anymore so we would, have that vote and be available more often for that? I mean, for me, I'd have a way to make council more of my job,
Mhm.
but an increase to council wages, it seems council wages every so often go up with the provincial wages because every time the province doesn't increase, the council sometimes doesn't increase. So I go, I look at the long run of what a councillor does, and they do a lot. If they decide to do a lot, they can do a little or they can do a lot. And I'd be one of those people that does a lot. So if the wage was increased, the first thing I would ask people is it important to them to see a more full-time counselor? If the answer is yes, then I would vote yes for the wage increase because
Mhm.
that means more people may have a chance to see city council be involved. And I know current counselors and previous counselors that have long passed have always thought that maybe one day Regina should have a full-time council. And I mean, maybe that increase could, and as I said before, maybe that increase could come at the cost of some of those middle managers that help us counselors because we're not available all the time
Mhm.
to, remove them as an example and have us be there as a full-time job
Mhm.
to serve the city in a regular role and make it more available and more inclusive to the residents that they're requiring. But that'd be the only time I would, look to voting in favor. If the money meant that it was just an increase for an increase, then I would go, okay, we look at the long term, not a lot of jobs have done increases since COVID, not a lot of businesses have done increases. Like fighting for increases outside of unions is tough. Like a lot of jobs even my job, it took a long time for me to get a pay raise, like 7 years to get a pay
Mhm.
raise. And a lot of people are on fixed income. So I would have to be very clear in the justification of why they're increasing it. If it meant for full time, then sure. If it means just increase for increase, I would really want to talk to the residents before I said yes, because the city increases everything. And I don't want that to be the reason, like an increase for an increase. It has to give me a reason.
Mhm.
Um, and that would be the difference. It's a shift, it's either a shift to full time or just leave it the way it is for now. And
Mhm.
then if there's a large inflationary part and if people around us are starting to get increases, then sure, increase it.
Mhm.
It's knowing what's going on in the world today and what costs are and cost of living. I don't want to put any more burden on people to serve them as I need to. That's the reality. So
Okay, thank you. And where would you take, like, when right now it mean there, like, some environmentalists are calling for more bike lanes to use bikes to get to work or get to school. So do you think Regina needs more bike lanes? And if there would be a case like before the council, so where would you stand?
see, I don't like bike lanes. Regina has a lot of bike paths that can get you around the city pretty well. What I know from transit is they want bus lanes.
Mhm.
To get to A lot of kids want to, a lot of people use the bus, not as many as they used to. But if transit had the ability to get through the city a little bit faster, and there's already in a lot of major roads, there's already side streets, they just want a button to control the cameras, which they can. It's not that hard to because most of our lights are controlled by computer. I
Mhm.
wouldn't want to see too many more bike lanes. We don't even have that many really in the city. A lot of our streets are too narrow to put them in, and a lot of the major thoroughfares, they use them as bus lanes. And then when we get down to South Regina, like it's two drive lanes. There's literally no room for anything else. Just the two drive lanes. Especially when you're going south on Albert or even south on Broad, there might be a third lane at some parts, and then there's less of a third lane on others. So I understand the bike community and them wanting some more access, but our biking community does have a lot of more bike paths than Saskatoon, and they have the ability to access a lot of the city using it. So, and in my mind, it keeps them safe away from traffic, and it keeps traffic safe away from them. And it's not like we're not going to build more bike paths around the city, and we're still building some new ones right now in the East End. So I go, the bike lane idea, just to me, if it was about bus lanes, it's a good thing. If it's about bike lanes, I can't get behind it, just because I know our roads, I know how wide they are, I know some of them how bad they are. It's just not a project that would be worth investing in right now. And a lot of my residents aren't going to talk about it, even the bike people. They would like, no, we got to get our services working right now over a bike lane. It's just not worth it right now.
And would you, I know like it is not happening right now, but just in future, would you support increase on bus fare?
The bus is an interesting case. It's pretty much over $3 right now to ride the bus. The thing about the bus, in talking with transit, the thing is, if a person can't afford the bus, they don't have to pay. They can go on and ride the bus. So I don't know if it's so much increasing fares. I think it's getting the bus more streamlined, getting it working a little bit better. And that doesn't take a $100 and some $1,000 plus transit master plan to do that. That takes asking transit workers. And if it's more efficient and runs better on time, and it takes less time to cross the city than an hour, because if you're in your car, you might cross the city unless you're going to Costco and make 20 minutes. But the bus still takes an hour. So if it can be streamlined, if there's bus hubs to get people from hub to hub and move a little faster, you may not have to justify increasing the rate, especially if transit allows people to ride for free if they can't pay. So I go, well, then let's do the thing. How much does transit cost? What is the long-term cost? And if it runs more efficiently, then maybe if ridership's up, then that's a good thing. And then we don't have to increase. And if the real cost, however transit moves into the future, can be determined, well, if the income doesn't, and it doesn't, even now, and probably wouldn't even into the future if the buses were full, doesn't offset the cost, it just brings in a little bit of income, then maybe make it a service that's available to everybody. There are whole swaths of communities, whether they're disabled and otherwise, that struggle to pay for the bus but need the bus because that's their only mode of transport. So I go, if they need it and it's a need today and they can't pay, then let them ride. And if it's streamlined so they can get to point A to point B in under, say, 30 minutes, then make it work. And then maybe we can leave the bus fare the way it is, or over time get rid of it to make it as accessible to all those that need the bus. And maybe it would reduce traffic. I don't know. Everyone loves their cars. We got a lot of suburbs in here. And that's kind of the fault. To me, it's sometimes a failure of a city when they build a new suburb, but they don't put in a bus stop. I go, so what about the people that don't drive? Oh, they got to walk a kilometer or two just to get to the bus. I go, that's not fair to those people. You built them a brand new, beautiful community. It has amenities nearby, but they still want to go to downtown. Well, they got to take the bus as the cheapest option, or they're going to be taking a cab or a ride share service. And I go, they want the bus, so you got to put in the bus stop. But a lot of times the city has forgot people and don't put the bus stop in. Westera is my best example of this, where it took 2 years to put the bus stop in.
Wow.
One lady had to walk 2 kilometers to the nearest bus stop. It was that bad. So there's a lot of little things that get missed when this city builds a community. So.
And where do you stand with respect to transit for being electric? Should it be compulsory? And if there would be any case such thing in the future, so where do you stand?
I think right now, going hard on the electric buses right now may not be the best option. I mean, if you run one or two to try it, wouldn't be a bad idea to see a trial period. Not just go full hard on the electric buses. I mean, there's a lot of smaller buses that run cleaner. There's other options for buses, whether it's natural gas or even hydro, as Toyota goes down that path, to do it into the future. If electric is the future and having a lot of electric buses, I mean, I can rewind a lot of years. Let's rewind like 80 years or 70 years. Regina used to have electric trolleys
Mhm.
running on wires across the whole city. So, and some buses back then were running on power grid, running across the city. So that's the old technology. I mean, the bus itself wasn't powered, it was connected to a wire and it would drive through following the wires. And that was the old system. And that system worked, but we don't have room for train tracks now. Very, like I said, our streets aren't that wide in a lot of places. But you look at the long term, I go, it's not that electric buses aren't proven. It's just some of the technology isn't there to get them running as smoothly in Canadian climate as possible. If it was hybrid buses, that would be a start. Like go full hybrid. Like you're going to be saving. To me, it's you're saving on gas. Wherever we can save a little bit of money for the city, save it on the gas bill, right? So
Mhm.
if it's a hybrid bus, yeah, we're going to save a little money on gas. And maybe when it's running in the city, it's gonna drive, but it's gonna not have to go to the gas station as often, right? And
Mhm.
if it's stopped, it's recharging them batteries and keeps going. So to me, it's let's go hybrid first and see where electric is in the next 10 years before we go full down the electric bus. And as for trolleys, the city's too small now. I mean, we spread, but the city just can't. There's no room for rail. There's no
Mhm.
room for rail lines.
Yeah. And yeah, like we are over time. Like I know, like uh, our
No, it's
time
all
is
good.
short. And so right now you are just running as a candidate for Ward 9. You are
Yep,
more accessible to appearing on the Sami Parvez show. So
yep.
could you please comment if you get elected, so you are uh, reappearing on the Sami Parvez show or giving interviews to other independent media or journalists?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Sorry. I said as you are running right now as a candidate for Ward 9,
Yep,
so you are accessible to giving interviews to me or any other independent media or independent journalist. But
yep.
can you please comment that if you get elected, so you are going to appear again on the Sami Parvez show
Sure.
or any other media, independent media or independent journalist?
Oh, guaranteed. Guaranteed I would. Like independents are like, yeah, I gotta do the big guys once you're elected, but I'm like, the little guys matter. Like Prairie Dog here always looking for a scoop from any politician that's willing to give him a time of day. You yourself or any of the little guys. I
Yeah.
mean, like even the smallest radio shows from public radio are always looking for us to give them a little bit of advertising, right? It's
Mhm.
they're and theirs are only like $500 to do a week's worth of advertising, where if I tried that with the bigger, $500 might get me one shot once a week, whereas they $500 give me a whole week time slot all week. So the little guys are what's matter. It would keep you guys running. It keeps
Yeah.
small business people running, and of course I'd come on. It
Mhm.
wouldn't be a problem. Yes, I'd be busy, but half an hour out of my day doesn't kill me, right? I
Mhm.
gotta I gotta go meet with as many people as possible across the city, and you get elected, then you're a counselor that's got to go talk to other cities across the province and
Mhm.
across the globe, supposedly. It's like I don't want to go globe trotting, but there are, unless it's on my dime on my,
Mhm.
vacation, but there
Yeah.
are there are times where counselors have to go to other cities and engage in what they do to bring some, city power back from another city and invest in cooperation because the cities may have rivalries, but they got to work together. And
Mhm.
and small media helps get people moving. So
Yeah. Mhm. Okay, thank you so much. And what's your message to Regina Ward 9 residents?
my message is this: is that you have you may or may not choose me because there is four or there's three of us running currently and maybe a fourth. in my message is this is do your research, listen to what we have to say, and vote. Whether it's for me or the other candidates, you gotta go out and vote. I mean, I would love to see it go over 20% and do what you gotta do and vote for the one that's gonna best support you into the future and at least be there and be available to work for you. And that's been my promise since 2020 is to be available, work for the people, and try and get the message out and get your voices heard in city council because that's my job. That is 100% what the city council is for. I have ideas, but it's about working for the people. So just go out and vote, please. That's my main message.
Mhm. And just asking last question, I supposed to ask it earlier. So are
Mhm.
you in favor of like a political parties in city council level?
I mean, as a person who's been a member of a political party, I still don't see a need for having a political party run on a provincial level. I know other provinces do, but to me, this is direct democracy, and having a political party take it over is ruining that because now we have to decide, oh, this party or that party. I mean, to me on city council level it's choices you get to choose it's your fellow residents for the most part that are running, and no matter where they come from, whether they lean left or right or moderate or it's they can have the support, but they still have to be individuals because the bottom line is we're not talking about huge super issues. We're talking about a water bill, for frick's sakes, water bills and so on, and that affects everybody.
Yeah.
It affects everybody. This level of government affects you the most, and we care for it the least. So having a political party go in there and just push an agenda, like they get six counselors or one or five counselors in the mayor, they're just driving home an agenda. Okay, you're now going to forget all the other things that are priority. You are literally going to forget them in favor of an agenda. And I go, agenda politics cannot be in the city. You can have ideas. Every counselor has a right to have their ideas, whether they're progressive or they're conservative, it doesn't matter. They have a right to their ideas. But at the end of the day, if you forget the maintenance, you forget the voice of the people, and I mean all of them, because
Mhm.
yes, 20% might vote, but 100% are going to bitch. And they got problems and they have issues and they want things done in a timely manner. They don't want them done right and they want an answer. Even
Mhm.
if it is a no, like we can't do it, then they're at least given the answer. Doing party politics, you're going to be doing your message, you're going to vote as a block all the time.
Yeah.
Having no parties means there might be some people that run as a block sometimes, like even now we have that,
Mhm.
but they might break ranks because they're not connected. They can break ranks and vote because if their constituents push them to say, "Hey, I don't want you to vote that way on that motion, no matter what your party thinks, I
Mhm.
don't want you to vote that way." They may just have to vote that way or risk losing to doesn't matter who next time. And that's the clear message that the city sends is that this is it. Like you make one mistake, you're out. And
Mhm.
that's a lot of, and it can be a single issue politics that drives people out. So,
Okay. Thank you so much, Reid, once again
yes,
for joining me on the Sami Parvez show. It's a great pleasure to have you from Saskatchewan,
yep.
and it was
And
a good
thank you for your time,
discussion.
sir.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And wishing you very best on your election campaign. Too.
Yes, thank you, sir. And you have a
My
great
pleasure.
evening. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.